name's Annette Hardy. She's a 30-year hair and makeup veteran in film, television and theatre. Welcome, Annette.
Thank you. So welcome, thank you for coming. This is about tried and true classic techniques. And I'm a little bit of a stickler for this sort of thing because you don't need to spend a ton of money on a whole lot of expensive products to be able to achieve some really good looks, okay? And the only way to really deal with all things makeup is to actually get in there and be practicing at home. Okay, so that's where we're coming from. This is what I call a character casualty simulation. Marcella she's a chickie babe. She's a chickie babe, she's a hot chickie babe, and she's kind of in the doomsday brigade. Yeah, where there's going to be an apocalypse at some stage. And she's gone out, checking the boundaries, and suddenly something's happened. And she's got some dirts, and she's got some grazes, and she's got some bloods, and all sorts of stuff is going to be going on. Somebody has taken her holster. We have a holster, but there is no gun. That's deliberate. The gun was taken in the struggle. All right, so first up, I should say to you, I have cheated a little bit. I did cook something earlier. And what I cooked earlier were these pieces. These very expensive looking pieces. Okay, so I'm going to spray this with a little bit of water. And these incredibly expensive pieces are latex rice bubbles and Cocoa Pops. And the good thing is, unlike other makeup, you can actually eat your brekkie while you're doing your work. The big thing with that is that it's cheap. You can do it anywhere. All you need is a plastic surface or even your palette, your beautiful Ben Nye silver palette, which is big enough to wrap the world in, yeah, and hold the world. So I have cooked that earlier, which is good because I don't cook, but I've always wanted to say that, so thank you for that. All right, next I need to just grubby her up a little bit, and I'm going to use the Ben Nye Bronzing Tint for that. I love the Ben Nye Bronzing Tint for this. I'm going to use a dodgy sponge, meaning a cheap sponge. You don't want to use stuff that's nice, too nice, because it's only going to get ruined, yeah? Now, what I love about the Ben Nye Tint is it gets into the wrinkles. And so literally, just, let's not be too precious about this. You just want to get in there into the metal. So all I'm doing here as well, guys, is doing a really important aspect of makeup, which is following the lay of the land. And the lay of the land is anything from face shape to contouring, body contouring. And you've got to follow where the natural dips are. And we're going to give her some muscle definition. I'm doing it with the tint, and I'm just going to break that up. And what will happen in about an hour, when she's to go on set, that tint would have settled into her skin really quite nicely. The big thing is, with all these sorts of makeups, is that you need to be aware. You've got to layer. You've got to think you're rich, and you've got to layer. Because if you just do one coat of something, you are so gone. It's just going to look fake. Okay, so this is about illusions and creating substance, color, texture, highlight and shade. Hello, you can't do these looks without it. Highlight and shade, highlight bring forth, shade set back. Color, we all know color, and textures are about gritty, dirty, dusty, shiny, sweaty, moving, all sorts of different, oozing. Oh, I'm rhyming. All sorts of things. Textures are really important. The next thing I've got to do in this process, and this is what I did, we did a lot on River Queen and Mission Impossible 2 and Samurai, love a war film, love an action thing is we do what we call prepping. So I'm going to map my injuries. So I'm using from the Master Bruise Wheel, I'm using the beautiful Midnite Violet, which is like a navy blue. That's a Midnite Violet. That's a Dark Burgundy. Seriously, man, if you only get one color in your life, get this color, because she does bruises, she does cuts, grazes, everything, and nice little lippy. And then we got the Sallow Green that I'll use later, and good old yellow, and blood red. Love a bit of blood red as well. You don't want to overdo the blood red, funnily enough, because it does jump out at you a little bit. I'm now going to do something. I'm going to mix my creams, my greases. It's a grease-based makeup, but I'm going to mix it with some alcohol. And what this does, it helps set it without having to use the powder, because as we all know, a little bit of alcohol sets. It also adds what I call a translucency. You'll see I'm a little bit rough with her. I'm not hurting her at all, but I do need to sort of get in there, and this becomes my sword, if you will. You know, so I know I'm going to do something down here. So I just need to put some things here. I love ears to torture, man. You know, everyone knows that when you do any damage to your ear, I don't know how many of you have done damage to your ears, hopefully not too much, but what happens is everyone just goes, oh, that hurts. And you go, yeah, it hurts, doesn't it? Because there's the lobe here, and it really hurts. So I'm using the same color. This is the Dark Burgundy again. And the other thing I'm going to show you today is you don't need 1,652 million tools to do something. I'm going to do a lot of this with just the same brush. You know, we've got almost a water wash technique here. We've got broken capillary looks. And because of the alcohol, can you see that? Gets under the skin and kind of separates like the capillaries. I'm now using the Midnite Violet. And I'm using this to add some more depth to my wound. I've got a nose piercing here, using the lay of the land. Going to rip this thing out. I'm not really. I'm just going to make it look as though it's been torn, bit of blood. I did neglect to tell you as well that one of the things that you really want to be careful of, and that you didn't hear me ask her, which was naughty of me, and that is you must always check that your actor is not allergic to anything. And I already ascertained this because we kind of met before, but it is really important to understand that and make sure that you realize that. Okay, so a little bit, again, using the lay of the land here with the lips. Can you see that I'm almost there? You know, it's like we've been going for what, 10, yeah, there you go, 15 minutes. And we're kind of already on the way to selling the story. And part of that is because if you use the lay of the land, guys, half the work's done. You know, if you're fighting against it, then you're fighting against it. And it's going to take so much longer. Use the lay of the land so much faster, makes you look so much more clever than you really are. I'm just cleaning my brush out. I'm a big clean the brush out as you go. And I'm using the Ben Nye remover for that. I want to do also what I call some little nicks and cuts and grazes. I'm actually going to get you to stand up, Chicky Babe, for this, because it's really hard to get access to you sitting down for this. Just turn a little bit. When you're working on a set, guys, you've got to think 360. You know, because they're running, just turn maybe a little bit 3/4. They're running away from you. So I'm just wanting to use, again, this brush. It's the FCB16. Yes, beautiful brush, loving it. It's a synthetic brush. Love a good synthetic brush. Why? Because it gets rid of the product out of it really easily. A little bit of the blood red now, so I've done the Dark Burgundy and the Midnite Violet. Now, change of tool, nothing up my sleeve. Hello, look at this, mascara wand. Fantastic for doing some really quick wounds. Again with the burgundy, dark burgundy. I'm thinking as she's battling away that she's had a few different skirmishes. So as I'm doing it, I've got these different shapes forming. You also use the mascara wand here. You can push it in, up and down, what I call a stipple. And all it is just changing the way you use the same tool to get the different effects. Now I'm doing some bruising here. There will be blood lines on top of this. What's the thing about bruising that drives me absolutely to distraction is you must remember that bruising comes from underneath the skin. So the alcohol really helps with that. Really helps with that. And you've got to look at your colors because, hello, you know, we're not all colored the same. So your bruising isn't going to be colored the same. So the person who's pink-based, their bruising color is going to be different to the person who's olive-based. I now need to move around the other part of my girl because, again, if you are on set, we see them everywhere. So I'm just grabbing this. You thought I was kidding when I said one of the best colors in the world, this dark burgundy. It gives you so many options. All right, under this bloodline here, this muscle line. Oh yeah, she's done something nasty here. Maybe a little bit of a barbed wire thing. Mascara wand again. Just moving it along for this grazing. I mean, you can use your beautiful stipple sponges for grazing too, but sometimes I find if you're really needing to be fast, it can be a little bit fiddly. That's just me. You might be able to nail it really easily. I'm just going to give this a little bit of depth. I'm really aware that she's holding her arm up, so I want to see how long she can hold it up there before she starts trembling. I really want to put some bruising in around here. Again with the dark burgundy. What can I tell you? But again, you layer it, yeah? Put a little bit on, put a little bit, mush it in, let it set. The idea with all of this is you work as you go, guys. You don't have to complete the makeup in 5 minutes. You'll come forward and back to all your work a lot of the time. Yeah, don't put pressure on yourself by going, oh, I've got to get this done. And no, man, we want this to settle for a minute. I now want to make this one maybe a little older because maybe Chicky Babe here got into a fight. I just want to give her some marks on her face other than the quick fat lip that I've just given her. I'm just blending off this area around the nose too. And I'm going to go to another tool. You've all seen this, yeah? It's just an orange stipple sponge. Yes, we've seen it. Okay, but it's a square. I mean, what can you do with a square? You may be far more clever than me. It's a square. So you grab your scissors, grab these corners, get rid of the corners. The corners will stitch you. I don't like corners. I don't even like corners in my room. In my house, I don't like corners. It could have come from this, I don't know. But this, can you see that now? It's a rounded edge, different edge, uneven. The whole point of these sponges are that they are uneven. Now, if you want to be really clever, yeah, baby, little bit of action on set, little bit of here we go, little bit of there's your graze. Okay, fantastic. Lois Burwell, Academy Award-winning makeup artist, multiple nominated makeup artist. She showed me this. That's the only name dropping I'll do. Now be careful when you're around the eye. Just shut your eyes, Chip. With the alcohol, breathe through your mouth, open your mouth up. Because you may enjoy drinking alcohol, but inhaling it's not good. And the other thing that's really important is this is 99% that I have here. It also, the good thing about the 99% one is that it's not too oily. Okay, I just want to give her a bit of a head cut, guys. I'm going to grab this and then I want to stick down some of my sores. Your fresh colouring for your bruises, I'm going to give her a bit of a cut up here. Again, just using the lay of the land here. She's got this beautiful brow bone area. Just make a mark, come back in, go stronger, diffuse it a little bit. I'm using this beautiful Fighter Pilot brush.
FCB 16.
What was it?
FCB
That's the one.
16.
That's
Netty's
the one.
favorite brush.
If you just go to the Ben Nye stand and say the F16 fighter brush, Bit of a head wound. I'm going to put this now with the Midnite Violet. With the stipple sponges, you do need to be careful because as you start to push the product in, it will sink right into the sponge, and it can really start to affect your product placement, your transference, which is really important. So I know it's the Virgo thing, but you actually need to just pummel it a little bit. I know I seem a violent person. I'm pummeling, I'm hitting, I'm doing all sorts of things. But it just will help you because often you go to use these and you get stitched, yeah? Because you're transferring the product and you're not getting what you want. You've lost control of the product. And we never want that. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to add some of the Sallow Green into this. Hygiene at all times, guys. Load it up with your palette. A little bit of the Sallow Green. This is just going to age it. And the good thing about this is simple, really. We all know that green neutralizes red. So if we start to put a little bit of the green in here, it'll take away the red that's in the Midnite Burgundy. And we'll start to actually age it up a little bit. Again, just being quite light here, not too heavy, but then I'm going to push it in. And then I'm going to do the next really important thing, and that is I need to edit because I need to create a little area of a hematoma. So I'm going to come in with the Hydra Cleanse. Why do I like the Hydra Cleanse? You're all asking, thinking, captured in awe. Simply because it's not too greasy. So as I do this and edit, I don't leave an oily residue which can affect me being able to work later on, yeah? Because the idea is at the moment, guys, you're all sitting here and we're on a stage, but in my head, we're out of my shower, which is good, where we rehearse this, we're actually on a set. And I'm prepping for the set because otherwise this whole experience would just be too terrifying. So I'm just pretending that we're on a set and you're just kind of all here for some reason. And editing is what we do. I'm going to use a little bit of the blood red here. I just want to look as though we've got a little bit of reactivation into that. And then we've got some of the green again. So it's like she has done something to herself. I'm going to use the Midnite Violet straight off the bat here. And I'm going to give Marcella a little bit of a black eye, following the lay of the land. But can you see that? Again, just using the lay of the land. I'm going to tickle her around the nose now, which is not a pleasant thing for my actor. But I need to get this trauma in here. I need the bruising to help sell it. I'm going to be putting bloods there, but I need the trauma to be real. I do get, again, I get a little bit disappointed when people supposedly get hit in the nose and, you know, they've got blood coming out of there and there's no other sign of trauma. And that's going to flow and that's a boom, boom, boom. Okay, all right. So now what I want to do is I want to colour these little odd things, these rice bubbles and Cocoa Pops. But I also want to show you how to put it on. So I'm going to put this one on just across the chest here where I've marked this a little bit. Got the pointy bit sort of pointing down. I'm just going to have it sitting here, okay? Now it's just latex. So we can use latex. Latex to latex is absolutely fine.
So Netty's using the clear latex. There are other latex products. We make a liquid latex, which is actually flesh-colored, but she's made her wounds and is applying with the clear. So it dries translucent, transparent.
You've got to look at the lay of the land, yeah? So I'm kind of heading this down. What's caused this? Look, it could be a knife wound, and these are going to be infected. Because I just love that whole idea of being able to do textures and infections. And who doesn't love a good infection when it comes to Casualty? And they love it on camera, don't they? They love it when they pull off the bandage and they're like, oh. And it's the whole sweating thing and who doesn't love a fever rant, man? I mean, a fever rant. I love a fever rant. So the textures of the rice bubbles give me a natural area of crustiness, yeah, to give me that scab. So if I wanted to keep it dry, which on some of these I will, I can keep that and I'll color that. I would color that maybe more browns and beiges, kind of scabby coloring. This guy, I'm going to go around and I'm just waiting for the latex to dry. And then I'm going to go around and give it some depth. This little guy up here, he's not a split webbing. He's just from a fight, a little bit of a nick, a little bit of a fight nick. I like to call them the little alphabet wounds, meaning different shades of the alphabet. Now I'm using the Dark Burgundy. I'm going to go in now with a little bit of the Midnight Blue. I leave the natural highlight there. Can you see that? Yeah? So as I leave the natural highlight, that can be some fresh flesh that's underneath it. And then I'm going to dress some bloods around that as well. These guys I do want to make infected. So I'm going to use the blood red, which makes sense. Now I'm putting the Dark Burgundy over it. Just along that edge. Just to give it the depth that it needs. So again, just the Dark Burgundy here. Swishing out the blood red now. Just to give it that heat. I am using the alcohol when it wants to come out and play. A little bit of the Midnite Violet, Midnite. Just getting in between these layers. I'm going to mix a little bit of the Sallow Green in there now. Dry at this point. Go back with the Midnite Violet. I don't want to cover up the whole wound. I do want to use some of it. Keep some of it crusty. Needed to get that real sort of scabby look. So I'm going in now, reinforcing the edge with the Dark Burgundy. I need it to look as though it's starting to really sink into the chest. All right, so again now with the brush, just moving that out. I've got a nice little bit of a latex edge there. Up here, I'm going to use some spirit gum, Ben Nye spirit gum. I can afford to wait for it to get tacky. Just going to put some here too. And I'm going to use cotton wool. Now, you can use your makeup remover pads. If the cotton wool is a bit tricky, a bit stringy, just dampen it with a water spray. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to separate this. And I'm basically going to sculpt. And you use your fingers, excuse me, with the spirit gum on there. And you put it on and you get these really look, this isn't great for continuity. In fact, to be honest with you, you would just cry if they turned around and said, you've got to do this again. But for this, it can work really well. You're running out of time, we just need to get them on there and we need texture. This edge that I don't like here, that's going too, I'm whacking that on there. And these are all the things that I was talking about, these little tricks. You can use these too for Halloween tricks. Halloween's coming up. Just sort of string it out. That's why if you dampen it, it works better for you. And you basically sculpt with it. Move it along. This can be, again, a nice little bullet graze. It just cuts into it with your palette knife so you get these textures. This is great for student films. This is great for Halloween. And it's so cheap. And it's so easily and readily available. So now we're getting some nice peeling here. Quickly, 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 while that's settling, I want to make you some pus. I'm going to put some green, sallow green, and I'm just going to mix it with your petroleum jelly, your clear petroleum jelly. Just a little bit. And what that will do is create a sort of nice oozy colour. If I want to, I can just make it a little bit opaque by putting the green red neutralizer in there as well. And it's nice and grotty. And the yellow, do that as well. And we're just going to mush these on. Nice and oozing. And then ultimately we're going to throw some bloods in here. Just go back in with some Midnite Violet. Oh yeah, now we're cooking. Look at that. Ugh. Crusty. Festering. Kind of ugly. The cotton wool now is kind of linking it, but it's nice and shiny and oozy. Now what we need to do is get some heat around the chest using the blood red on my stipple sponge. Just really need to sell this chest. You don't say that everywhere publicly and get away with it. Just going into the alcohol just to get some heat, real heat. Scab blood, love it. Fresh scab, love it. Get it, put it on your palette. Because I've done the underwork here, I can literally get in here and just put some of this jam into the cotton wool. And as I do it, it starts to give it some depth. Grab my trusty little dark burgundy, darken up the cotton wool around it, and that can give the illusion again of some quick, fast trauma bruising. The cotton wool acts as a highlight, which gives you texture. Nice and chunky. Don't be afraid of it. A little bit of the blood red now. Then we're going to spray some blood over that. If it gets a little bit too red, you can throw the Midnite in and you've got your green on your huge, fabulous palette. Blending this off now, dragging it down. Remember, you've got to make it look as though it's coming from underneath the trauma there. Over here now, burgundy, dark burgundy. You move between the cotton wool. So in a sense, this is going to end up looking as though it's a little bit of a knife edge. And using the top of the cotton wool to give yourself that lift as though it's skin. A little bit of the Midnite Violet. And a little bit of the blood red. All with highlighting and shading, yeah? All aware of where you're heading. A little bit of the dark blood now.
So we make two colors of blood. This is, Netty's using the dark blood, which is a dark blood. The stage blood is a fresher looking, a fresher color. The dark blood has a bit more brown, yellow tone to it.
Which is good. At the moment I'm tricking you all and I'm just going to put some fresh scab in here before I dress the blood in. And if you see, if I place it in there, it actually sits within the cotton wool and it creates the illusion. Can you see that? Creates the illusion that there's depth there. And again here, you know, and look, you can sculpt pieces, you can do all sorts of things. But by using the cotton wool as part of the sculpt, it's quite fast, as you can see, and gives you these beautiful chunky kind of textures. Now I'm going to the dark blood. I'm actually going to mix a little bit of the dark blood with the Midnite Violet, and that's because exactly what Pat was saying, I do like it to be a little bit, I like it to have a little bit more blue in it. So I'm going to mix the blue, pop my bloods in. Yeah. Just mix it up. I've put this in a lid because I might do a little bit of flicking. And the darker blood will also help it give it that extra texture. Now the cotton wool here is kind of pulling away, which is really nice, because it makes it look as though it's torn the skin a little bit. And we're getting little chunks. We love a bit of chunk. Just settling it in these edges, so it's as if you've sculpted a really, important piece, and you're just placing the blood within the lines of the cotton wool. And what that does is it holds the bloods really nicely, and you get this really nice kind of dark color now with the blue as well. All right, next thing I need to do is grab my favorite water spray, spray this, get your cotton bud, and just literally start to move it. Let the water bring it down. Don't worry that it's beating, that's okay. We'll get rid of that. And by allowing this to just come down, what happens is you get these little interims of blood settling. And then you can again use it to push it into where you've already got your wounds. So again, because I've done all this work with my mapping before, we can just put little bits and pieces on. But I'm hoping you get the idea, yes? Yes, yes? Thank you so much for your time. Very much appreciated. And thank you, the gorgeous, very still Marcella.